Namo Myo Renge Kyo, Namo Myo Renge Kyo, Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your practice. I hope this finds you in good health and secure. Your liking and subscribing of these videos is part of our Bodhisattva work and essential to the growth of this Sangha. So please, if you can take a moment to do that, extremely grateful, all of us are, for your Bodhisattva effort. Yeah. Now, I just finished a video on karma and emptiness. Posted a new document on threefoldlotus.com that I hope helps elucidate this idea. But Nichiren is in the midst of talking about this in that flowery way, in that expedient means Buddhist way. He's trying to relate to the people of Japan and the tremendous warring that's going on amongst clans and the samurai, that if you step out of line, you could die, your land's taken away, your wife, your children raped. I mean, just the consequences of not following with the program in Japan, medieval Japan. Yeah, we have that situation today, I know. Not everywhere, but in the context of Japan here, Nichiren is trying to reach people's minds and saying, look, you can perceive reality and the truth of Shakyamuni's teachings to help you understand what's happening in your life, to direct you to your enlightenment. Or you can just follow the program of these power mongers and agendas and so forth and just be part of the fodder. Just be another cow, sheep. I don't know. I suppose you can find some happiness in that, but I'm suspecting it's pretty darn limited. Right? You don't leave samsara, but at the same time experience your life fully as you possibly can, without the imposition of all this stuff as real. Because it's just a process. It's just happening. Since this is so, believers in the Lotus Sutra should fear those who attempt to obstruct their practice more than they fear bandits, burglars, night raiders, tigers, wolves, or lions, even more than invasion by the Mongols. So Nichiren is saying, if you're practicing the Lotus method, Namo Myo Renge Kyo, single-mindedly invoking Buddha mind, Buddha-ness, the full expression of your life in each moment. So not only is that far beyond your samsaric experience of threats and disease and illusion and blah, 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 but anyone who prohibits you from doing that, from releasing yourself from samsara so that you can experience your momentum of life, moment to moment, fully, gloriously, anyone who tries to get in the way of that, it's actually more of a threat to your being than criminals, war, invasion. All of that is terrible, and yeah, it's a threat. It's a samsaric threat. It's a physical threat, but liberation in the mind, the only threat to that is attitude, influence. And that's ultimately, that experience of Buddha-ness is the greatest of all rewards in life, yeah? So if you're going to fear something, fear that most. Don't be cavalier about the rest of it, but your attitude should be, this is the top, right? Namo Myo Renge Kyo. This world is the domain of the devil king of the sixth and the skies and space, right? Darakuten no Mao. In other words, the samsaric, the brain activity of survival, making things permanent so that I can negotiate every moment of my life. That's the delusion that we live in for survival. But our mind doesn't need to be attached to that. Our mind can liberate itself from that drama to experience life as it is, happening moment to moment to moment to moment. Wow. All of that ceases to be so stressful. I'm no longer anxious about it because it's ephemeral. It's created. It's a convenient assembly of thingifying for my brain to differentiate an apple from a rock. Good, I need that. But that's not where life is. That's the support for samsaric apparatus for one reason and one reason only. What's this survival about? The mind. That's the true value of life. Not eating, not shelter, not sex. Those are all part of survival. Keeping the apparatus going for what reason? Mind. And so with all that effort that's going on to emerge this mind, I should be looking to see, what the hell can I do with this mind beyond simply surviving? Wow, I could perceive the whole of life, the complete immersion into this process of life, of stars, creation, of galaxies, of universes, of nebulae, of oceans, of lakes, of little tiny birds, hummingbirds that seem to just float in the air. Oh, wow, I forgot. Yeah, I have stuff that's imposing pressures on me. Well, you forget about those things when you start to be amazed at the process of life, yeah? All of its people have been under the rule of this devil king since time without beginning. This is the samsaric imposition. Not only has he built the prison of the 25 realms of existence within the 6 paths and confined all humankind within it, but also he has made wives and children into shackles, and parents and sovereigns into nets that block off the skies. To deceive the true mind of the Buddha nature, he causes the people to drink the wine of greed, anger, and stupidity, foolishness, and feeds them nothing but dishes of evil that leave them prostrate on the ground of the 3 evil paths. What a poet, yeah? When he happens on persons who have turned their hearts to goodness, in other words, to the real, to Buddha-ness, he acts to obstruct them. Oh, we won't have any of that. No, you get stuck down here in the muck of possessions and stress and anxiety. That's samsara. You stay here. He is determined to make believers in the Lotus Sutra fall into the lower paths, right? But if he's unsuccessful, he tries to deceive them gradually by luring them toward the Flower Garland Sutra, which resembles the Lotus Sutra. Oh, okay, you like Buddhism, huh? Well, look at this over here. Yeah, isn't that more convenient? What's Nichiren talking about here? False teachers. Well, false teachers, that's a cliche, and I don't want to mislead you there. But teachers who may, in their hearts, really believe that they're offering you a good teaching, but have been themselves misled, misunderstood, right? They're not all thieves in the night who are trying to gain popularity or wealth or power through the teachings of Buddhism. The systems, the traditions, they're already in place. They may actually be ignorant. What Nichiren is saying, though, is that if you're really purporting to be a teacher of Buddhism, then study well enough to know bullshit from truth. So he doesn't give them any slack either. Just because you're ignorant doesn't mean you should be fouling up everybody's pursuit of enlightenment. Take some freaking responsibility. If you're going to teach, teach from a place of knowing, not tradition handed down. Well, somebody told me this, so just spit that same crap out. You need to know for yourself. I keep coming back to this, people. The only way to attain Buddhahood is for you to do so in your own mind. You're your best teacher, parent, teacher, sovereign. That's you. All right, back to Nichiren. This was done by Tushun, Qiyin, Fatsang, and Chengquan. Then Qishang and Shengchuan were the evil companions who craftily deceived believers in the Lotus Sutra into falling back into the Wisdom Sutras. Similarly, Xuanzang and Zhuan led them toward the Profound Secret Sutra, while Shanwu Wei, Qingkangqi, Pukung, Kobo, Jikaku, and Chisho deceived them into following the Mahavarochana Sutra. Bodhidharma, who we know, I used to teach martial arts and study martial arts, and Bodhidharma will come up for many of you if you have any martial arts experience. And Huiko caused them to stray into the Zen school, while Shandao and Honen tricked them into believing the Meditation Sutra. In each case, the Devil King of the sixth heavens, the skies and space, possessed these men of wisdom in order to deceive good people. This is what the Lotus Sutra means when it says in its 5th volume, quote, evil demons will take possession of others, end quote. The great demon of fundamental darkness can even enter the bodies of bodhisattvas who have reached near perfect enlightenment and prevent them from attaining the Lotus Sutra's rewards of perfect enlightenment. How easily can he then obstruct those in any lower stages of practice? Right? Even a great student of Buddha and Buddhism and Shakyamuni's teachings can, at the precipice of his own enlightenment, her own enlightenment, can be misled, distracted. So if even a well-versed and studious person seeking enlightenment can be easily distracted, how much more so for just us schlubs, right? The Devil King of the sixth skies and space takes possession of the bodies of wives and children and causes them to lead their husbands or parents astray, right? Because those are our nearest and dearest influences, right? If you say, come on, honey, let's chant for 30 minutes. And she says, well, I'm wearing my special outfit. Why don't you come in here and... That's a strong distraction. Certainly not the only one, but one I thought you'd all have some relation to. He also possesses the sovereign in order to threaten the votary of the Lotus Sutra, or possesses fathers and mothers and makes them reproach their filial devoted children. Right? Negative influences can come from anywhere. Even your best mindset can be easily distracted because we're in samsara. You must be, and this again, Nichiren, be steadfast, resolved All that other stuff, it's there. It doesn't have to immediately take you away from your enlightenment. That should come first, always. And no doubt this is why Nichiren told Shijo Kingo, okay, go have sex with your wife, but as you two are in coitus, look into each other's eyes and chant. Because that's the point, not mere survival. Prince Siddhartha sought to renounce his title, but his son Rahula had already been conceived. His father, King Suddhodana, therefore admonished him to put off leaving to become a monk until after the child was born. And, this negativity, this devil, took advantage of the situation and delayed the childbirth for 6 years. Of course, this is hyperbole, right? Like the sitting on the picket fence time. Shariputra began his bodhisattva practice in the distant past, in the latter age after the extinction of Zentara Buddha. He had already practiced for 60 kalpas when the devil king of the sixth skies and space became worried that in another 40 kalpas, Shariputra would complete his practice. The devil disguised himself as a Brahmin and begged Shariputra for his eye. In response, Shariputra gave him one of his eyes, but from that moment, he lost his will to practice and then gave up, thereby falling into the hell of incessant suffering for countless kalpas. 680 million lay believers in the age after the passing of the great adornment Buddha were deceived by the monk Shore of Suffering and 3 other monks so that they denounced the monk universal practice, and as a result fell into the same hell for as many kalpas as there are dust particles of the land. The men and women in the latter age, after the passing of Lion Sound King Buddha, followed the monk's superior intent, who observed the precepts but mocked the monk Root of Joy, and so fell into hell, where they remained for countless kalpas. Now, you should know by now, these are all references to expedient means, teachings of Shakyamuni, that the people in medieval Japan would be aware of, no matter what sect they were in, right? How those stories were interpreted in their final analysis was greatly colored by the schools, the teachers that they were being misled by, yeah? But Nichiren uses what they're familiar with to indicate, remember this story, remember that story, remember what you heard here, right? This is an active thing going on in your life right now. So why is Nichiren doing this? Well, it is the same with Nichiren's disciples, he says, lay supporters. The Lotus Sutra reads, quote, "Since hatred and jealousy toward this sutra abound, even when the thus come one is in the world, how much more will this be so after his extinction?" Right? We're 2,200 years after his extinction. How polluted do you think it's going to be by now? It also reads, quote, "It will face much hostility in the world and be difficult to believe." Or in other words, to hang on to be resolved. Because there'll be so much distraction, so much negative influences, so much trying to take you away. Stop doing that chanting thing. That's just magical, when in fact it is they who are being magical and mystical. There's nothing magical and mystical about telling yourself to wake up, is there? That's what chanting is. Hello, Buddha. Let's do this. It's an invocation of your innate ability to see and experience the engine of life fully, without distraction. How is that magical? Everything else is the magical, the delusion, the attachment. That's what's befuddling us. But not according to those that have something to gain for themselves by us not doing it anymore, right? The Nirvana Sutra states, quote, "By suffering an untimely death, rebuke, curses, or humiliation, beatings with a whip or rod, imprisonment, starvation, adversity, or other minor hardships. We wouldn't consider that minor, but in relation to enlightenment, minor. In this lifetime, one can avoid falling into hell. In other words, if you stay steadfast and facing off these adversities, your reward it's immediate. The Parinirvana Sutra says, quote, "They may be poorly clad, poorly fed, seek wealth in vain, be born to an impoverished and lowly family, or one with erroneous views," right? "Or be persecuted by their sovereign. They may be subjected to various other sufferings and retribution. It is due to the rewards obtained by protecting the law that they can diminish in this life their suffering and retribution." Retribution, I hate that word. Their suffering and negative circumstances, because it all precipitates from delusions. Yeah. These passages mean that we, who now have confidence in the correct teaching, in the past once committed the offense of persecuting its practitioners and therefore are destined to fall into a terrible hell in the future. Again, this is about suddenly discovering that you've been misled, misleading yourself for so many years, and who knows what causes you made with thoughts, words, deeds that impacted and manifested distractions, suffering on others. You're not even aware because you thought you were just living your life. But now that you know, you live your life very differently. Can you go back and fix all of those mistakes that you made? You're not even aware of most of them. But knowing that you've imparted upon your experience of karma these negative filters, you can now, by chanting, by invoking Buddha, slowly remove, mollify, clear those filters, even the ones you're not aware of. Because your life energy is not a static thing. It's constantly developing, accumulating, but developing, modifying. So you want to be in that clear Buddha mind as much as possible, yes? The rewards gained by practicing the correct teaching, however, are so great that by meeting minor sufferings in this life, we can change the karmic filters that destines us to suffer terribly in the future, right? We can clean those up. It should make that clear in this translation. This is that slippiness of the word karma, yeah? As the sutra says, one's past slander may cause one to suffer various effects, such as being born into a poor family or a family with erroneous views or being persecuted by one's sovereign. You ever been part of a family where you're progressing in your life and suddenly your brother becomes born-again Christian? Or your sister declares she's now a Muslim? Or whatever, right? That's what this means. It doesn't mean when you die you'll pop into a family in Ethiopia and you'll be a black person because karma. No, that's a bunch of hogwash. These are contemporaneous experiences. Yeah. A family with erroneous views means one that slanders the correct teaching, knowledgeably or not, ignorantly, right? And persecution by one's sovereign means to live under the reign of an evil ruler. That could be your mother. That could be your own delusion. Parent, teacher, sovereign. Yeah, this is about the mind. These are the two sufferings confronting you now. In order to expiate the sin of your past slanders, you are opposed by your parents, who hold mistaken views, and must live in an age of a ruler who persecutes the votary of the Lotus Sutra. The Sutra makes this absolutely clear. Never doubt that you slandered the correct teaching in the past, right? Unless you were born chanting, you had belief systems based on survival, not based on enlightenment. So obviously you missed it. But you don't have to suffer for that once you can encounter the proper practice of invoking Buddha-ness, that you're even aware of it. Then everything changes. Or at least can. If you have doubt about this, you'll be unable to withstand the minor sufferings of this life. Everything will bury you. Then you may give in to your father's opposition and desert the Lotus Sutra against your will. Remember that if this happens, not only will you fall into the hell of incessant suffering, right? You'll be in Samsara. Everything will be a disaster or stressful or anxious. But also your precious parents will fall into the great Afichi hell because they put you there. Whether they meant well or not is irrelevant. They're misleading you and themselves, compounding the error, causing all of you indescribable grief. The essential thing is a great resolve to attain the way. Both of you have continued your resolve in the Lotus Sutra. Thus, you are now ridding yourselves of your grave offenses from the past, right? You're correcting your filters imposed on karma that you're having to deal with every day. You're clearing that up. What people would, in our parlance, say changing karma. But you're not changing the karma. You're changing the filters you put on the karma that are the delusions you're living the consequences of. That would be the better word for retribution. They're consequences. Guess what? There are consequences to everything, right? Everything is affected. For example, the flaws in iron come to the surface when it is forged, right? The impurities in iron, you know anything about iron forging. Put into flames, a rock simply turns to ashes, but gold becomes pure. This trial, more than anything else, will prove your strong resolves genuine, and the 10 demon daughters of the Lotus Sutra will surely protect you. The demon who appeared to test the boy's snow mountains was actually Chakra. The dove saved by King Shibi was the skies and space-born king Vaishravana. It is even possible that the 10 demon daughters have possessed your parents and are tormenting you in order to test your strong resolve. Any weakness in strong resolve will be a cause for great regret. The cart that overturns on the road ahead is a warning to the ones behind. So interesting. Again, he's using portions of expedient means all over the place because he's talking to the brothers. Is it Ikigami brothers? We'll find out. Anyway. In an age like this, no one can help but thirst for enlightenment, for the way. You may hate this world, but you cannot escape it. The people of Japan are certain to meet with terrible misfortune in the immediate future. The revolt that broke out on the 11th day of the second month in the 9th year of Bunen in 1272 was like blossoms being lashed by a gale or like bolts of silk burning in an inferno. Who can help but abhor a world like ours? In the 10th month of the 11th year of Bunen, the people on Iki and Tsushima Islands were slaughtered at one stroke. We've read about that before, yeah? How can we say that this is of no concern of ours? Again, this is the discussion we've had, I've talked to you about. You know, when things are happening elsewhere in the world, we insulate ourselves, right? Well, that's over there, not me, right? But the truth is, it's all us. There is no separation between this suchness of being and the suchness of the environment of being. The illusion is that we're separate. So with the slaughter going on all over the world today, we should feel deeply engaged. If that's not motivation, how can we say that that's not a concern of ours? The soldiers who went off to confront the invaders, how forlorn they must be. They had to leave behind their aged parents, small children, young wives, and cherished homes to go out and defend a sea to no avail. They lost. They were overrun by the Mongols, yeah? How do they feel? If they see clouds on the horizon, they imagine them to be the enemy's banners. If they see fishing boats, they think them Mongol warships and are paralyzed with fear. Once or twice a day, they climb the hills to look out over the sea. 3 or 4 times in the middle of the night, they saddle up and unsaddle their horses. Though still alive, they feel as if they were in a world of Asuras. You ever felt that way? Don't know which way to duck? What's going to happen next? Where's your resolve then? Right? Hard to fight those influences. Those are the demons, the devils that Buddhism talks about. They're internal. They're infecting your parent, teacher, sovereign, right? All this and the hardships you've suffered as well can ultimately be blamed on the fact that this country's ruler has become an enemy of the Lotus Sutra. His opposition was instigated by the slanderers of the correct teaching, particularly the observers of the precepts and the Nembutsu and the true word monks. You must persevere through this trial and see for yourselves the rewards of the Lotus Sutra. I, Nichiren, will emphatically call on the skies and space-born gods, powers, universal forces. Now more than ever, you must neither show nor feel any fear. It's time to be a mindless Buddhist. It's time to chant with all of your energetic being to instantiate Buddha. You can't be distracted by anything else. It's the only thing that will ensure certainly change you may not even be ready to perceive, but protection from further tortures, right? Women are faint-hearted. Is that the misogynist statement? Certainly not in his day. Women were trained to be faint-hearted, right? Women are faint-hearted, and your wives have probably given up their belief, which is, again, that greatest portal of enmity, distraction. Come chant with me, darling. No, everything is hell. I can't do it. Let's go to bed. Please, just hold me. Yeah, that's a tempting obstacle. But you must be stronger than that. Your resolve must be, no, we'll go. You can come by my side and hug me as we chant. This is number one. Hugging is of no solace if all we're doing is waiting for our demise. Let us have a mind of optimism and strength and courage. Yet you must grit your teeth and never slacken in your strong resolve. Be as fearless as Nichiren when he acted and spoke out before Hei no Simon no Jo. Although theirs was not the path to Buddhahood, the sons of Lord Wada and of the governor of Wakasa, as well as the warriors under Masakado and Sadato, fought to the death to preserve their honor. Death comes to all, even should nothing untoward ever happen. Therefore, you must never be cowardly, or you will become the object of ridicule. I'm deeply concerned about you both. Therefore, I will relate a story that is important for you. Two princes named Po Yi and Shu Qi were the sons of the ruler of Kuchu in China. Their father had willed his title to the younger brother, Shi Qi. Yet, after he passed away, Shu Qi refused to ascend to the throne. Po Yi urged Shu Qi to assume the title, but Shu Qi insisted that Po Yi, the elder brother, should do so instead. Po Yi persisted, asking how the younger brother could contradict their father's will. Shu Qi agreed that their father's will clearly named him, yet he still refused the throne, claiming that he could not bear to push his elder brother aside. Both brothers then abandoned their parents' estate and traveled to another, where they entered the service of King Wen of Chao. Shortly thereafter, the state was attacked. King Wen was killed by King Chao of the Yin dynasty. Less than 100 days after King Wen's death, his son, King Wu, was prepared to do battle with King Chao. But Po Yi and Shu Qi, holding fast to the reins of his horse, strove to dissuade him, saying, "You should be in mourning for 3 years after your father's death. If you start a war now, can this conduct be called filial?" King Wu grew furious at this and was about to kill them both. But Dai Kung Wang, the king's counselor, restrained him. The two were so loath to have anything more to do with this king that they went off to seclude themselves in Mount Shaoyang, where they lived solely on ferns. One day, a person named Matsu passed by and asked, "Why have you hidden yourselves in a place like this?" They told Matsu the whole story, and he replied, quote, "If that is so, don't these ferns also belong to the king?" Thus reproached, they immediately stopped eating the plants. It is not the way of the skies and space to forsake worthy men. Therefore, a god appeared to them as a white deer and provided them with milk. After the deer had gone, Shu Qi said, quote, "Since the white deer's milk is so sweet to drink, its meat must taste even better." Po Yi tried to silence him, but the skies and space had already heard his words, and the brothers were abandoned at once. Thus they eventually starved to death. Even though one acts virtuously throughout one's life, a single word can ruin one. Not knowing what thoughts you have in your hearts, I worry about you a great deal. Is this not a story of attitude and intent? So important to our moment-to-moment consciousness. Yeah. When the thus come one Shakyamuni was a prince, his father, King Suddhodana, could not bear losing his only heir, and so would not allow him to renounce his royal station. The king kept 2,000 soldiers posted at the palace's 4 gates to prevent him from leaving. Nevertheless, the prince eventually left the palace against his father's will. In all worldly affairs, it is the son's duty to obey his parents. Yet on the path to Buddhahood, disobeying one's parents ultimately constitutes filial piety. Once again, the example that even rules and convention and traditionalism, no matter how those traditions are constructed, become in themselves obstacles. That's the way of samsara, politic, even amongst parent and child. Now, he didn't say, well, you went off to be a flute player But he is saying that the ultimate success you can reach in life is Buddhahood. And if your success, and this is key, if your success honors those who, parents in this case, either acted as obstacles, if your determination is to succeed, you ultimately honor them, and they will mollify. They will see your success. They will benefit from your success, and everything's right. There is no greater success than enlightenment, therefore, right? The Contemplation on the Mind Ground Sutra explains the essence of filial piety. Quote, by renouncing one's obligations and entering the Buddhist life, one can truly repay those obligations in full. That is, in order to enter the true way, one leaves one's home against one's parents' wishes and attains Buddhahood. Then one can truly repay one's debt of gratitude to them. They may not understand, so they act as obstacles, but that's out of ignorance. In worldly affairs as well, if one's parents foment a rebellion, it is one's filial duty not to follow them. This is mentioned in the classic of filial piety. When the great teacher Tendai engaged in meditation on the Lotus Sutra, he saw his deceased parents seated on his lap to obstruct his practice of Buddhism. This was the work of the skies and space-born devils, right? Those negative influences, who took the form of his father and mother in order to oppose him. Not his actual parents. His mind, his attachments, his conception of his parents. All of this drama, once again, I remind you, is happening within our individual minds. Has nothing to do with what he said, what she says, what they say, what society says. It's what in your mind you make of those things. I have just cited the story of Po-yi and Shu-chi. There is one more lesson you should learn from history. Emperor Ojin, who is now great Bodhisattva Hachiman, was the 16th sovereign of Japan. Emperor Ojin had two sons. The first was Prince Nintoku, and the second Prince Uji. The emperor transferred his throne to the younger brother, Uji. After their father passed away, Uji asked his elder brother to take the throne, but the elder brother reproached him, saying, quote, how can you refuse to comply with our father's will? Same story, different day. They argued back and forth, and for 3 full years no one claimed the throne. As a result, the people suffered indescribable grief. It was like a curse on the nation. The Prince Uji finally thought, as long as I am alive, my brother will not assume the throne. So he committed suicide. This is the problem with traditions, right? We can't see clearly. Yet there's a tradition that you do as your father willed, so what the hell? At this, Prince Nintoku was racked with sorrow and fell into despair. Seeing this, Prince Uji, he came back to life in order to give words of encouragement to his brother. Then he passed away again. Okay, obviously this is a fable, yes? It is recorded that when Nintoku at last ascended the throne, the nation became peaceful and received 80 boatloads of tribute yearly from the 3 Korean kingdoms of Silla, Pakche, and Koguryo. Other cases exist where the relationship between the sons of worthy rulers was not harmonious. What bonds have enabled you 2 brothers to continue on such good terms? Could you be Prince Pure Storehouse and Pure Eye Reborn? Or the embodiments of the Bodhisattvas, Medicine King and Medicine Superior? When your father disowned Taiyu no Sakan, I expected that Hyo no Sakan would refuse to side with his brother, thereby making it even more difficult to clear up your father's doubts and have him rescind his disownment. If what the boy Tsuruyo told me is true, you two were alike in your resolve. So overjoyed was I at this unbelievable news that I wrote another letter. Could there ever be a more wonderful story than your own? The record of the Western regions tells about a hermit who lived in Deer Park at Varanasi, India, in the hopes that he would master occult powers. He learned to turn tiles and pebbles into jewels and change the forms of humans and animals, but he could not yet ride on winds and clouds or travel to the palace of the immortals. In order to accomplish these goals, he took as his assistant a man of integrity. Giving him a long sword, the hermit instructed him to stand in one corner of the practice platform and told him to hold his breath and utter not a word. If the man remained silent through the whole night until dawn, the hermit was certain to master the occult. Determined, the hermit sat in the center of the platform. With another long sword in his hand, he chanted incantations. Making his assistant take a vow, he said, quote, "Even at the cost of your life, say nothing." The man answered, "Though I die, not a word will leave these lips." In this manner they passed the night until just as dawn was about to break. The man cried out suddenly, and the hermit immediately failed in his attempt. He reproached the man, saying, "How could you have broken your vow? This is deplorable." Repenting deeply, the man said, "I dozed off for a little while, and in a dream my previous master appeared and rebuked me. Yet I endured this, not uttering a word, for my debt of gratitude to you is much greater. My former master grew furious and threatened to behead me, but I still said nothing. Finally, I was beheaded, and when I saw my own corpse proceeding on its journey from death to the next life, my sorrow was indescribable. Still, I did not speak. Eventually, I was reborn in a Brahmin family in southern India. The pain I felt on entering and leaving the womb was unbearable, yet I held my breath without crying. I grew up to be a young man and took a wife. My parents died. My child was born. I felt sorrow and joy, but said not a word. Living on like this, I reached my 65th year. Then my wife said to me, quote, "If you still refuse to say anything, I will kill your beloved child." The thought flashed through my mind that I was already in the last years of my life and that if my child were killed, I could not beget another. Feeling that I must shout out, I suddenly awoke. The hermit said, "We were not strong enough. You and I have been deceived by a devil. Our task has ended in failure." Lamenting, the man of integrity said, "Because I was so weak-willed, you have failed to master the occult." The hermit regretfully replied, "It is my fault for not having admonished you enough beforehand." Sounds like a Japanese movie, yeah. Nonetheless, as the record states, the man was so grieved he could not fulfill his obligation to the hermit that he brooded over it and died miserably. In China, the occult evolved from Confucianism, and in India, it was found among the non-Buddhist teachings. Yet, it does not even approach the Hinayana teachings of the Agama Sutras, much less the connecting teachings, the specific teachings, and the perfect teaching. Therefore, how could it be measured up to the Lotus Sutra? The four devils fiercely oppose the mastery of even such a shallow art as the occult. How much greater, then, are the tribulations that will confront the disciples and lay supporters of the person who is the first to embrace and the first to propagate in Japan the 7 characters of Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, the ultimate principle of the Lotus Sutra. It is impossible to imagine, let alone describe in words. And that's where I'll stop today. We are on page 45, so make a note of that for tomorrow. Thank you for listening. This is entertaining, a lot of storytelling. Nichiren is truly pulling every reference out of his hat. to help encourage these two sons. And, I don't know if it'll help, but the background says that the two brothers to whom this letter is addressed were the sons of Ikegami Simon no Taiyu Yasumitsu, who held an important post in Kamakura in the government's Office of Construction and Repairs. The older brother, Munenaka, was probably converted to Nichiren's Buddhism or doctrines of Buddhism in 1256. The younger brother, shortly thereafter. The father was a loyal follower of Ryokan, one of Nichiren's detractors, right? Chief priest of Gakuraku-ji Temple of the True Word Precepts School, and vehemently opposed the beliefs of the two sons for over 20 years. In fact, he went so far as to disown his elder son on two occasions, 1275 and 1277. The right of the eldest son to succeed to the wealth and social prestige of the family was a vitally important aspect of Japanese society. The individual scarcely existed outside a family context, and centuries of intra-family rivalry, feuding, and even murder attested to the importance of being first in line for inheritance. Virtually insurmountable social and economic sanctions existed against disowned persons. By disowning Munenaka, their father, in effect, was provoking rivalry between the two sons by tempting Munenaga to trade his beliefs for the right to his father's estate. The shonen sent letters of encouragement to the two brothers and their wives, urging them to unite and maintain their strong resolve. And in 1278, the brothers finally succeeded in converting their father to Nichiren's doctrines. So that's a little bit. I won't read the whole thing, but just so you have some context. All right. Let me close this down. Take care of your health. Don't be too preoccupied. Observe the rules and the laws of the state and the community that you're in. Do what you need to secure your life, but never, ever, ever betray. Always maintain your high resolve. Don't let anyone dissuade you from your enlightenment. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. That connection, that enlivened moment with the engine of life ensures a life-affirming connection to the karma of life without the impositions of the fake, the deluded filters either imposed on us or imposed on ourselves, right? Just stay strong in your practice. Stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one. All right? Bye for now.